So the Champions Hockey League is back after a month off, and it is time for knockout hockey. It comes around pretty quickly in the Champions Hockey League, but that is part of what makes it such an exciting competition. It is the premier if you're a North American competition here in Europe. As the name would suggest, it is the Champions League as we see in football, soccer, but for the ice hockey teams. Different format this year, if you haven't been following it to this point, just to set the scene, really. We've had what they've called a regular season, although it's really a group stage, to be honest. But each team had 6 games. At the end of those 6 games, we had the standings. 1 to 16 made the playoffs. They're seeded in order, so the first team plays the 16th team, second team 15th, and so on and so forth. We do know that there will be a new champion this year because reigning CHL champions Tampere of Finland were knocked out and they are not in the playoffs. Big shock there. So a new champion will be crowned this year. And we are heading to the round of 16. So round of 16, we have games on Tuesday and Wednesday this week. So that's Tuesday 14th, Wednesday 15th this week. And then there is the second leg of each of those matchups will be the following week on Tuesday or Wednesday. So round of 16, same with quarterfinals and semi-finals, are home and away legs with an aggregate score. So they play at both venues. At the end of the second game, the aggregate score across the 2 games is what determines the winner. If the teams are level after 120 minutes, well, that's when the peak drama really kicks in at that point, because we then have a 10-minute overtime period where it's, well, sudden death or golden goal, depending which way you want to call it, to get through. And if it's still level after those 10 minutes of overtime play, it is a shootout to determine who goes through. We are going to look at all 8 matchups, and we start, well, the obvious place to start, really. First against 16th. First in the Champions Hockey League regular season this year was Adler Mannheim from Germany, and they take on Rapperswil Jona Lakers of Switzerland. So Adler Mannheim topped the Champions Hockey League standings, 5 wins and an overtime loss. Big thing for them was how good they were on the penalty kill during those 6 games. They killed 28 out of 29 penalties in those regular season games. So very tough to score on, even when they were short-handed. Their leading scorer in the 6 Champions Hockey League games was David Wolf, who did play 3 games in the NHL for the Calgary Flames a few years back. He's in his 8th season with the team, got 6 points from his 6 games, 4 goals, 2 assists. They're going pretty well in their domestic league, the Penny DEL in Germany. They're 5th in that league with 30 points from their 18 games. The Ice Bear in Berlin is essentially, I think, the Berlin Polar Bears. They are top with 39 points. So they're in the running in their domestic league, as well as having a fantastic start to the Champions Hockey League campaign. One name you will know if you are coming to the team for the first time is Tyler Ennis. He is former Edmonton Oilers, among other NHL teams. Joined the team in October, has played 5 games so far, got 3 assists, but this will be his first Champions Hockey League game with Adler Mannheim this season, so he will be in the team for them against Rapperswil Jona Lakers. Now, like a lot of teams, it has to be said, as you'll see as we go through these matchups, they've not had a great start to their domestic campaign. They are 11th out of 14 teams in the Swiss National League with only 8 wins from their 21 games. And they were not in good form heading into the international break. They'd lost their last 4 games heading into the international break. So you can take that 2 different ways. From a momentum point of view, that's not great to go into the international break like that. But at the same time, international break maybe has come at the right time for them. They can take a breath, reset, get going again for the Champions Hockey League round of 16 and to kick on in a domestic league from there. They have made a signing over the international break just a few days ago. They have signed former NHL winger Martin Frick from Bern in the Swiss National League. Played for Carolina, Detroit and the LA Kings in the NHL. Spent last season with the Springfield Thunderbirds, great name, in the American Hockey League, and did well there last season. but no real opportunities for him. So he moved to Bern in the Swiss National League for the season, played in 11 games, got 7 points, but for whatever reason has decided to move on. From Rapperswil's point of view, they needed reinforcements because unfortunately they've been hit by a bunch of injuries. Primarily in this case, Brett Connolly, who is a 31-year-old Canadian winger who has had to undergo hip surgery that will finish his season, unfortunately. So they needed to replace his production, and they have with Martin Frick. So we'll see how he gets on with his new team. Rapperswil were 3-3 in their regular season in the Champions Hockey League. And although you may think first against 16th, not going to be very likely, one thing you will say about Rapperswil is that their final 2 regular season games were against Tappara Tampere, which was a 4-2 home win, and then a narrow 3-2 overtime loss against Vecchia Lakers, Vecchia being the reigning Swedish Hockey League champions. So they've shown that they can come up against the best teams and really compete hard. So we'll see what Adler Mannheim are able to do in terms of, will they push them to one side, or will Rapperswil really make them work for it? I think the latter. The first leg is in Rapperswil on Tuesday 14th. It's a 7:45 p.m. local time start. And certainly, as is the case with a lot of these matchups, you really feel Rapperswil need to get a lead in that first leg. If they can get a lead at home, take a lead to Mannheim, they may have a shot. The smart money would be on Adler Mannheim going through here, but not out of the question completely that Rapperswil could pull off a shock. The winner of that matchup will face the winner of the next matchup we will look at, which is Lahti Pelicans against Vitkovice Radira. Both were 4-2 in the regular season in the Champions Hockey League, although Lahti did beat Vitkovice 4-0 in a matchup at the Isku Arena. Neither team are impressing domestically, though, so far. Vitkovice, since a 5-0 win over Ingolstadt, wrapped up their Champions Hockey League regular season. They've lost 5 of their 6 games in the Tipsport Extraliga, the second from bottom in the Czech League. Just 5 wins from their 17 games so far, so they are struggling badly. Have made a few roster changes in recent days. Marcel Brinker, I think it is, has joined from Iserlohn Roosters of the Penalty EL, and Jonas Peterik has joined from a Finland team. Been playing in the Masters League in Finland, had 18 points from 14 games in that one. A 22-year-old joins the team. So they've brought in a couple of reinforcements to their forward line, but they really need it. They need something special in the Champions Hockey League. And then they need to carry on that form in their domestic league. As for Lahti Pelicans, they're 12th out of 15th in the Finnish Liga. They have recently re-signed the veteran forward Antti Tyrväinen. He was with the Fishtown Penguins in Germany last season, but has returned to Lahti just in the past couple of weeks. American Ryan Lash led the team with 16 points from 18 league games so far in the domestic competition, and he scored in that 4-0 win over Vitkovice in the Champions Hockey League, as did Artur Jonsson, who was a 7th round pick of the LA Kings, the 2020 draft. So they've got some good forward prowess in that team. I don't know, this one could go either way. I do think Lahti Pelicans should be a little bit too strong for Vitkovice. And the first game is in Lahti, so they have the opportunity to really stamp their authority on this time. But, again, neither team is looking particularly good in domestic competitions. So you would expect neither team's confidence is particularly high right now. And if Vitkovice can at least hold things level, maybe get a draw, a tie in the first game, and then take it to the second game, they could come through it, but that's an interesting matchup for the round of 16 here. Now, we move from that matchup on to BLBN against Färjestad. Färjestad, we covered them in the last podcast episode. They are currently leading the Swedish Hockey League, playing some incredible hockey in the Swedish Hockey League right now. So they are going to be a tough nut to crack for BLBN. They'll be confident of getting through, frankly, Färjestad, but BLBM will put up a good fight. We know that well. Like other teams we've mentioned, they're 12th out of 14 in the Swiss National League, so they're just one place behind Rapperswil Jona, so another team that isn't doing very well domestically. But they went 3-3 in the Champions Hockey League regular season, although they did lose 4-1 to Färjestad at the Lufsberg Arena. So they've got that loss to get some revenge for. It will be tough for them to do it. If they do, they'll be led by their two Finnish stars, Jero Salonen, who has 17 points from 20 games in the National League, and Toni Rajala, who has got 16 points from 19 games. The big concern for Lem still is Gaetan Haas, who had 5 points in 5 Champions Hockey League games, but has been sidelined since October 21st with a concussion injury. It's a former Edmonton Oiler, got a lot of good pedigree, a lot of experience. It's a big loss for them. Obviously, with it being a concussion injury, that is 100 times more important than hockey, so just hope for good health from him. But there's been no word so far as to when he may come back. Whether he's back in time for the first game tomorrow, I do not know. But the main thing is he is back healthy and back on the ice at some point. But it's hard to look past Faria's start in this one. But BLBN will do their best at the Tissot Arena. They'll be there on time. Nice little watch joke there for you. Insert your own watch jokes for the Tissot Arena. But BLBN, they need to keep it close in that first leg, because if they don't, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. The next matchup includes another team from Sweden, Skellefteå, as you have to pronounce it. They're 8th in the Swedish Hockey League. They are taking on Artillery Trinec. So Trinec are 4th in the Tipsport Extra Liga with 11 wins from 17 games, being led by the ageless 37-year-old Martin Ruzicka, defying the aging process really. Got a point per game last season and has started with 19 points from 17 games so far in this one. Meanwhile, in Champions Hockey League play, where they went 3-3 in the regular season, Libor Hudacek put up 10 points in the 6 games to lead all of the Champions Hockey League in points. So he's going to need to rediscover that form in the Champions Hockey League and carry it on if Trinec are going to have a good chance against Skellefteå. Now, Skellefteå 8th in the Swedish Hockey League. They've won 9 of their 16 games so far, but they've lost 4 of the last 5 games before the break. Again, like some other teams, maybe that international break has come at just the right time for them to have a reset. And one thing that has happened is that they have made a big addition over recent days. Andreas Jonsson, who played in the National Hockey League for the Maple Leafs, the Devils, and also the Sharks, has joined Skellefteå on a long-term contract, 3 years or so, 2027, sorry. He is there for until the end of that season. He did actually play in 13 NHL games last season, I think a few for the Devils and a few for the Sharks. Mainly was in the American Hockey League last year, had signed a deal with Pittsburgh to see if there was an opportunity for him this coming season, but none really materialised to his liking. So he has decided to return to Sweden, joining up with his brother, Jonathan, who is injured at the moment. I think he's injured probably until the new year, Jonathan. But he is back with previously playing for Frölunda. That's where he came from. And there was quite a lot of talk that he would go back to Frölunda, but it's Skellefteå who have got the signing. And that is a big addition, very speedy player, and could be a real threat to Trinec in this matchup. Not 100% confirmed that he will be in the team for the first leg, but it looks very likely that he will do. The first game is in Trinec, so it's one of those situations where Artillery Trinec, they are the underdogs in the matchup, so they need a good start rather than to be going to Skellefteå and having to chase the tie. Moving on, the next one is what I am going to consider. This is my dark horse for matchup of the round of 16, and may take a few people by surprise, but I think this is going to be a cracker. It's Ilves Tampere against Dynamo Pardubice. Now, they actually played each other on game day 1 in the regular season, and Ilves beat Pardubice 3-1, but plenty has happened since that point. Dynamo Pardubice are currently top of the Tipsport Extra Liga with 14 wins from 18 games. And of the 4 games that have lost, 3 of them have come in overtime. So they've been extremely competitive in the Extra Liga so far this season. They've won their last 4 games and most recently a 2-0 win over Vitkovice, their fellow Champions Hockey League team. So they're in good form. Their offense is firing. Lucas Radil, 21 points. Robert Kusal, 16 points. And Thomas Hicker has 15 points. The latter got 5 assists and a goal in the Champions Hockey League regular season. So they are going to be a team that is going to put Ilves Tampere under a lot of pressure. Now, Ilves, of course, are flying the Tampere flag after their counterparts at the Nokia Arena were knocked out, the reigning champions, Tampere. So Ilves are on the march. Ola Palava has 21 points in 21 games in the Finnish Liga for Ilves, and Petr Koditek leads the team with 12 goals, while Seattle Kraken prospect Jani Neumann has 13 points from 19 games. The American defenseman Les Lancaster got 5 goals in the Champions Hockey League regular season, so there's plenty of goals in that team. And that's why I think this could be a real cracker. Dinamo Pardubice are top of their league. Ilves Tampere second in the Finnish Liga. Tampere just 3 points ahead of them. So this could be a cracker. It could be a high-scoring affair. It's one of 2 games that is starting on Wednesday rather than Tuesday this week. So it's Wednesday 15th. It's starting in Tampere at the Nokia Arena. So that could be an absolute cracker. Ilves Tampere against Dinamo Pardubice. It's too close to call for me, but it should be one to keep an eye on. Next up, it is Innsbruck against Lukko Rauma. So Innsbruck went 3-3 in the Champions Hockey League regular season with Corey Mackin and Braden Shaw, both logging 8 points. They are currently 8th in the Ice Hockey League in Austria, or I think we have to call it the Win Today Ice Hockey League. Got 9 wins from their 17 league games so far. Nate Halbert is the real star here from my biased British point of view, because he was split nationality, Canadian, Great Britain. He was born in Nottingham and played for Great Britain recently last season. Spent the last 2 seasons with the Coventry Blaze here in the UK in the Elite Ice Hockey League. So we want to see Nate do well for Innsbruck. As for Lukko Rauma, they're 6th in the Finnish Liga so far with 11 wins from 22 games. Couple of players with Carolina Hurricane links on the team. Tarmo Rail-Noonan has 15 points in 21 games so far, led the team with 6 points in the Champions Hockey League regular season. They also have Tuukka Tiksola, Tuukka Turksola, I think is how you pronounce it actually. He was a 4th round pick for Carolina in the 2019 draft. They finished 3rd in the Champions Hockey League regular season, so had a really good campaign. 5-1 they went in their 6 games, so they've been in good form, decent form in their domestic league, not sparkling form, but decent form. So you would back Lukko Rauma to come through against Innsbruck, but the first game is in Innsbruck, so if they can make a good fist of it in that first game on Tuesday and get themselves a lead, they can make it very difficult heading back to Finland for the second tie the following week. The last 2 matchups. Firstly, we have Genève Servette against Red Bull Munich, as we might call them in England. They both won 3 games in the regular season to qualify for the playoffs, and they are both reigning champions of their domestic league. So Genève Servette, reigning champions of the Swiss National League, although not going so well for them this season so far. They're 8th in the league with 10 wins from 20 games. They've got a strong Finnish core to the team. Defenseman Sami Vatanen has 19 points in 20 games. In the National League, Sakari Mananen and Valtteri Fipula lead the forwards with 14 points each. During those 6 Champions Hockey League regular season games, they were averaging 4 goals per game and killed 18 of 19 penalties. So they are a strong outfit, very solid, and will be a real test for Red Bull Munich. As for Munich, they're currently 4th in the Penny DEL in Germany with 31 points from their 18 games, just ahead of Adler Mannheim in those standings. Canadians Trevor Parks and Ben Street lead the team with 13 points each in their domestic league, whilst American defenseman Jonathan Blum amassed 9 points from the 5 Champions Hockey League games he played in earlier this season, 8 of those 9 points coming on assists. So this is another close one. First game is on Wednesday 15th, and is in Munich. We'll be interested to see who gets the advantage there. I might put it Genève Servette, perhaps have the advantage there because they go back home in the second leg. They'll know what they need to do to get through. So that could be the decisive point in this matchup, but it should be a close one between those 2 teams. 2 reigning champions of the domestic leagues, flying the flag for their countries, and should be a cracker. And the final round of 16 matchup. should be another cracker. It is Ingolstadt against Vecchia Lakers. So Vecchia 6-0 in the Champions Hockey League regular season. They're currently second in the Swedish Hockey League, They are the reigning champions of the SHL2, so we all know about the quality that Vecchia possess. I covered them in my previous podcast episode, so if you haven't listened to that one, you can check out all of the latest news from the Swedish Hockey League in that podcast. A tough task for Ingolstadt. They're 10th in the German Penny DEL with 7 wins from 18 games so far. They went 3-3 in the Champions Hockey League. They do have a chance, I think. Their first game is at the Saturn Arena on Tuesday, so they can keep in the tie and then try and take something to Vecchia to see what they can do from there. Daniel Pieta leads the team in points with 13 in domestic league play. Wojciech Stachowiak, I think is how you pronounce it, is on 12 points and was the team's joint points leader in the Champions Hockey League with 4 from the regular season games. Now, the one thing that is blindingly obvious when you look through the stats for Ingolstadt from the regular season of the Champions Hockey League is that they have to get something going with their power play unit. They were just a 9.09% on the power play during their 6 regular season games. So they need to find a way to make that man advantage count. If they get on the man advantage against Vecchia, they have to make it count. Otherwise, it's going to be very tough for them to get through. But if they can try and put that right, get a win in their first game at the Saturn Arena this Tuesday, then again, it's the same old thing. They'll put the pressure back on Vecchia. You would expect Vecchia to get through, but Ingolstadt can put them under pressure, and it could make for a very interesting return leg in the following Tuesday in Sweden. So there we are. Those are the round of 16 games. There are some crackers, as I said. I do think that one between Ilves and Dinamo Pardubice could be the round of the tie of the round, but there are a few others in there that could steal a march on them. So let's see. The games are available from various different outlets depending on where you are in the world. Here in the UK, we get to see most of them on YouTube. They are being shown on YouTube, all of them. It's just it depends whether you are geo-blocked from watching them depending on the TV deal that may or may not have been signed in your local territory. So have a look on the Champions Hockey League website and see where you can view them, because these games are brilliant, especially now we're in the knockout stages. There's some great hockey to watch. You shouldn't be sleeping on the Champions Hockey League. If you're over here in Europe, yes, we all love the NHL, but there's some great players, some great teams here in Europe. The Champions Hockey League really brings out the best of them, especially the knockout stages. So lots of great hockey to enjoy, and I will be rounding up where everything is after the first leg when I do my podcast next Monday, which will be ahead of the second legs. And there is sure to be some brilliant second legs in the Champions Hockey League next week, where teams are going to be potentially facing an upset, potentially creating a shock. And we will be looking forward to all of those next week. But for now, Tuesday and Wednesday this week on the 14th and 15th, catch some European hockey if you can, with the first leg of the round of 16 of the Champions Hockey League.